Okay, this is the standard purchase and sales agreement I have on the website on the contracts page. I'll put a link for it below, but let's just take a couple minutes and go through it here. I filled out some of the contract, this, so you can see it filled out. The first thing you're going to have is the date that you're writing the contract. Pretty straightforward. Just whatever day you're doing it with, sitting down with the seller. You're going to put the date in there. You're going to put the seller's name, or you're going to put the seller's name. If there's multiple parties, you're going to put all their names there. So ask them when you're filling out the contract if they're the only person on title, because whoever's on title needs to be the seller on this contract. If there's 2 people, 3 people on title, all their names have to be on there. Typically, it's just 1 person or 2 people. So make sure their names are there. You are going to be the buyer, so you're going to fill in your name here where it says Joe Wholesaler or Jane Wholesaler, as the case may be. And then you always want to have this on the contract and or assigns. This is the key to wholesaling, because when you get this property under contract, you're not typically going to resell the property. You're going to assign it to somebody. That's how wholesaling works. It's a contract law. When you write a contract with somebody, that contract becomes property, and you have the legal right to sell that property, that contract. You don't own the real estate. You don't have a right to sell the real estate, but you have a right to sell the contract. So that's what we're doing in wholesaling 90% of the time. Sometimes we get into scenarios where we actually close on the property and then turn around and resell it. But most wholesalers are just assigning the contract. So it's important to remember. It's always got to say and or assigns. Okay. And then, you get into just the, seller agrees to sell and buyer agrees to buy the following property. And you just put in the property address, the city, state, and zip that, where the property is. Where it says legal description, a property's legal description, a lot of time it has to do with the subdivision and the city and the township and the county and all that stuff. You don't need to fill that all in. When the title company does all the title work, they'll have the legal description on the appropriate paperwork. So you don't have to fill that in. Just put C title. Or you can put C, we can change this. We can put C title policy. Okay. So then we get down to the numbers. Earnest money deposit. That's what you're giving them as a good faith deposit on the property. To make a contract legally binding, there has to be consideration given. And usually that consideration is in form of money. So it can be $1. It can be $50. It can be $100. It's, whatever you're comfortable with. I've never really had anybody question how much I was giving him for a deposit. A lot of times I put $1. So just whatever you want to do. Another thing about the earnest money deposit that's very, very important, never give it to the property seller. You never write them a check personally. You never hand them cash. You never do anything like that. The earnest money deposit on any real estate transaction is going to go to the title company. And we say that right here, but I just want to emphasize it. Never give the money to a seller. All right, so you put your earnest money deposit. So then cash the seller at closing. If this is a $50,000 purchase and we're giving them $100 down, I put the wrong amount in here. It would be $49,900 to them at closing, and then $100 makes $50,000. Okay, so earnest money deposit plus the cash at closing is going to equal the purchase price of the property. Okay, and then again, earnest money deposit to be deposited with a licensed title company or attorney within 48 hours. Some states are, attorney states, and you'll have to do a closing with them. So you need to figure that out where you're at. If you're a title closing state or an attorney closing state, So, also a good rule of thumb. This wholesale contract is used by a lot of wholesalers all over the country, but it's always a good idea, and I put it right on the website as a little disclaimer. Always a good idea to run this contract by your title company you're using, just to make sure that they're good with it. Okay, so but it's used in most states. There's a few iffy states, New York and Texas especially, that you might want to check and see what their laws are there. So okay, so earnest money deposit to be deposited with a licensed title company or attorney after acceptance of the offer. Okay. And then this is really, also for the title company, prorations, in-pound security deposits, loan interest, all the numbers to do with the closing are going to be prorated as of the date of closing. This isn't something that you've really got to worry about because the title company is going to crunch all those numbers and calculate, all the prorations. So they'll handle that. Okay. Then you'll put the closing date on here. Closing date, you want to really, you want as much time as possible. If you've already got investors lined up that'll buy your properties and they'll close quick and all that, you can put 30 days on here. But if you don't have investors lined up, which, I recommend you do, but if you, for some reason you don't, then give yourself plenty of time to find one for this property. So try to give yourself 60 days to move the property versus 30. So you have time to, to locate a buyer and assign the property. So this is where you're just going to put the closing date. So 60 days out or 30 days out, whatever. And then closing will be held at, and I put investors title company in here. You always want to use your title company. You always want to use a title company that handles investor transactions, and they know how to, handle an assignment and all that stuff. So ask around, ask at a local real estate investors meeting what a good title company is to use. Find another wholesaler in your area, ask them who they're using for a title company, but always use your title company and always know that they're, you're using somebody that will do a good job. Okay. Damage to the property. You're just saying, after you look at the property and sign this agreement that, the property's going to stay in similar condition, that, if, you get ready to close on the property and there's a fire or, truck runs into the house or, something that, that's going to, null and void the deal and all that stuff. So, you just want that in there. Then we have, if buyer defaults on this contract, the seller gets to keep your $100. And if the seller defaults, you can go after them because they have entered into a legal agreement and legally they need to sell you the house. So would I do that personally? Would I go after somebody legally if they didn't, honor a contract? Probably not. I'm not going to go to the legal expense and just go through all that stuff. You know what? I'll just, brush my hands of the situation and go on. I'm not worried about, suing people or anything like that. Just so if somebody backs out, just make sure you have a good deal. Don't, if it seems iffy when you sign the contract, if you're like, I don't know if this is going to stick, I don't know if they're going to go through with it, they're probably not. If you've got that gut feeling, trust your gut. Don't waste your time on a deal that's not a deal. But if you're clear about, what the price is and you're going to close and everything's good and they're acting like, that they're good with the deal and all that, then move forward. But my advice, if somebody backs out of a deal, just be done with it and go on, find another one and don't even mess with it. All right. So, successors and assigns, the term and conditions of this contract shall bind all successors, heirs, administrators, trustees. That's if you get into some probate deals or trusts or whatever. Just, legalese in there too. You just being everybody's contractually obligated to, go along with this. This is the inspection. This is a key and a very important fact on wholesaling property. Okay. You're going to give yourself an inspection period. Okay. And make it, 15 days, 30 days, whatever you're comfortable with. to have the property inspected. Okay. And down here it says, if buyer determines in buyer's sole discretion that the condition of the property is not acceptable, that you can cancel the contract by delivering written notice of such election to the seller prior to the expiration of the inspection period. So why do we do this? Why is this important? Because if you sign this deal and you go out and you can't find somebody to assign it to, you can't find an investor that wants this deal, this is how you get out of it. Okay. This is when you go back and say, you know what, I talked to, I inspected the property and we crunched the numbers, and, I got my partner involved, and the numbers just don't work for us. The inspection numbers don't work for us. And I'm going to cancel it and put it in writing and send the cancellation over and just say, I'm just type on a piece of letter, I'm not, as of, such and such date, I'm electing to, back out of the contract based on the inspection, that I got back. So, and be done with it. But that's you're out. That's how you get out of a contract if you can't find a buyer for it. And in some cases you go back and say, you know what, inspection came back and there's a lot more work to this place than I thought there was going to be, and the numbers are just off. And a lot of times the seller will lower their price based on that. Just say, if it was 10 grand cheaper, I'd probably be able to do it. Then they'll go, well, I can probably do that, and they'll lower the price. So, or sometimes they'll tell you to, pound sand, they're not dropping the price. So either way, that's how you handle it. You either, go back, renegotiate the deal, or you just type up your exit, letter and just say, you know what, I just, I've got to back out of the deal. So, okay, then we move on to just, additional terms and conditions. Say you're buying a probate house and they're like, you know what, I'll sell it to you for, 50 grand and you can keep all the furniture and everything in it, the piano and the grandfather clock. That's where you just write that in here. Any additional terms and conditions, of the deal, you want to put in here. You want to be careful not to put anything crazy or complicated in it, because these are terms and conditions that the person you assign it to, or the investor you sign it to, is going to have to agree to, because they're stepping into your shoes. So don't say, I'll buy the house for $50,000 and you can live in there the next year for free, or, you can stay there until you get an apartment or whatever. Don't put anything weird in there like that, because an investor's not going to want to assume something like that. So just try to keep this clean. It's there if you need to add anything into it, but, don't complicate your deal. Okay. And then, down at the bottom, it's pretty straightforward. Date it. You date it and sign it. If there's, multiple sellers, have them all sign it and have them all date it. If you've got a partner that you're working with, you're JVing the deal or something, then you can both put that there. But, that's it. This contract is used by a lot of wholesalers, and it's just, clean and easy, and there's not a lot of, legalese in it. It's straightforward. The title company, all the title work done, the deed and all that things, that's, the purchase agreement is important, but all the paperwork the title company does is what, conveys the property from one person to another and all that. So that's the real crucial part. And that's why it's important, you have a good title company that knows what they're doing. So that's it on the purchase and sales agreement. I'll do another video on the assignment agreement, which is, even easier than this. And then we'll talk about a couple other contracts, a JV agreement and a option agreement. If you're not sure about, if you can sell a house, how you can put it under option and go try to find a buyer for it. So, but we'll get into that later. But this is the purchase and sales agreement. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, shoot me a message, on Facebook, or if we're watching this on YouTube, leave it in the comments and I will get back to you and help you out any way I can. So, all right. So we'll be back with the assignment agreement soon. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.